You ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready, gamer. Alright, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Claire's Based Talkathon. I'm your host, Claire, and today my guest is Steven. Say hi, Steven.
Hello. I'm
And
Steven.
yes, he is Steven. So we are going. So if you're not familiar with the show, basically I'm the host, and I have a guest co-host, and I give my guest co-hosts a puzzle to solve, and whatever the solution to that puzzle is, that is the topic for the rest of the episode. So, Steve, are you ready to begin the puzzle?
Oh man, I'm so ready.
Are you pumped? Are you hyped?
I'm pretty hyped. We're pretty hyped in here. Earlier we got a bruh.
Yeah, we got a. Can we get some bros in the chat?
Bruh.
Bruh. All right. So your puzzle, the way it works is that it is two four-letter words, and you have to guess letters one at a time. And if the letter isn't present in either word, then nothing happens. But if the letter is somewhere, I'll tell you where it is, and if it shows up multiple times. So just throw out a letter for your starting guess.
All right. We're gonna be a little spicy here. Can we get a Z?
Actually,
shoot.
the word was z. The topic is sleeping. Yeah, you got it. No, nothing. Literally nothing.
Shoot.
Well, okay.
Does
How
that
about-
mean
okay,
I have to cut off a finger or something in this game? What's the consequences?
The only consequence is that we spend more time talking about this rather than the actual topic.
Oh, okay. And I probably look like a sad person who doesn't know how to spell.
You look like a fucking idiot.
Ouch!
No, it was /J, brother.
Let's get a C for Claire's Based Talkathon. Do we have a C?
I like that. No C. How about you take a second to think about a better letter, and I'll plug your TikTok. So Steven has a TikTok at solipsismsteve. So if you want to see more of him, go check him out on TikTok at SOLPSISMSTEVE.
N, right?
Solipsism Steve.
Am I Solipsism Steve or Steven on TikTok? Oh no.
Steve, it's Solipsism Steve.
I didn't know that. Okay. Well,
I immediately checked it this morning because I was like, I'm not gonna fuck up the at.
yeah. So there was no C, right?
No C and no Z.
Okay, well let's get an A.
A? Alright, so the second letter of the first word is A. And the second letter of the second word is A.
Oh no.
So it's something A, something space. Something A, something.
Can I solve it? Can I attempt to solve it?
No, you can't. You cannot attempt to solve.
Okay.
The way
I don't think it would
this
be possible.
specific game works, the way this specific game works is that you can't solve it. No. You have to do it letter by letter, even if you know what it is, just so that.
Yeah. Well, let's.
Because last time, we did a puzzle and it was like 5 minutes, so. I want to be a little bit longer, if possible, than like a minute. But yeah, you got a next guess?
Let's do S for Steven.
Nope, no S's, unfortunately. No S's.
Okay, how about the letter N?
The letter N? The letter N does not appear in the words.
It does not appear.
Nope.
Oh.
No letter N.
Shoot.
All right, well...
We're running out of letters here, so...
Yeah, take a little bit to think about it. All right, so if you have not seen the first episode, the pilot for Claire's Based Talkathon should be live by the time this goes up. So go check that out. You can hit the channel description. It'll probably also show up with the end card. Additionally, if you want to see more of me in a little bit less organized way, you can check me out on TikTok at Claire Theswitch. All right, Steven, you got another letter? What's your letter?
Let's get an. Did I say N? I already said N. How about D? D's a common one. That shows up sometimes.
D is a pretty common one. It's good for it's like right next to the RSTLNE, you know, like the Jeopardy group of letters that are like priority.
Oh, of course.
No D. No fucking D. You goddamn no.
We don't get the D.
No.
That's good. Wait, so...
Yeah, I just give you a hint, which is the Jeopardy letters.
Shoot, I wasn't doing very good at the listening part of that hint.
R, S, T, L, N, and E are like the most common letters.
Okay.
And they give you the most information for how common they are.
Yeah. So let's get an S.
They're not too common. An S?
Yeah.
No S.
Still no S. Dang. Okay, R.
Yes, there are 2 R's. So in the third letter of the first word is an R, and the third letter of the second word is an R. They're not the same word. I know it's looking like they're the same word right now, but they're different words, I promise.
Claire, so where are you on? Where's your podcast going to be hosted?
YouTube. So check me out on YouTube. It is possible. That's actually a great segue into another point. If you have any feedback on things like how I can improve the podcast or potentially upload it onto different platforms and what platforms you guys would like to listen to it on, let me know. So right now it's just going to be on YouTube, but if you guys want a Spotify release or iTunes, SoundCloud, LimeWire, whatever the fuck, that can be arranged if you guys are interested. All right, yeah. You got another letter?
Let's hit an M.
M?
Yeah.
The first letter of the second word is M.
The second word.
The second word.
The last letter of the second word.
Something AR something, MAR something.
All right. Well, we got to get an H. I'm feeling like that word is farm. Or farm.
Interesting.
Farm.
No, there's no H.
Okay. So F.
F?
Yeah.
Nope.
What?
No F.
I think you're lying to me.
I'm lying to you. There's no letter. I actually didn't come up with a word before.
Okay.
No, there is an actual. There are 2 real words, that exist in conversation between people. You might not find.
Are these words they go together? They
are words that go together. That is your hint. Is that they go together and they're not necessarily found in a dictionary.
They're not found in the dictionary. Oh.
Not necessarily. Depends on your maybe like an encyclopedia, but not a dictionary.
We talking like Urban Dictionary? Is this gonna be? Is this gonna be a wild podcast?
Shid fard. No, just it's a word. It's words. They're both words, and they're real. Okay. Is there anything else I should plug?
Have you plugged the have you plugged Disney yet? I think they need it. They needed some help.
Yeah, I feel like Disney really needs the attention.
Yeah, they've been.
Oh, here's something I can plug. So, right now, as of recording this, I've recorded the pilot episode, and it's not gonna be up. It's not up while I'm recording this, but it will be before this is uploaded. And you might notice with that upload, there is a background picture that was made for me by a specific individual at Andrew Sperm on TikTok, I believe. At Andrew Sperm. I'll double check that, but whatever it is, I've got him linked in the description of my channel. He did the profile picture for the channel as well, so yeah, shouts out to him.
That's cool. Your TikTok picture? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, TikTok profile picture, and then also my YouTube profile picture, and the background image that will be shown with the podcast. It's not done yet, but I trust him with my life, so.
Nice. Claire,
yeah, Andrew.
I was gonna say, do you consider yourself an artist? Are you an artistic person?
I'm not. What kind of art are we talking?
Anything is art if you.
Fucking guess a letter, dude.
Is it R? P? Let's get a P. Did I already say P?
There's no P. There's no P, man.
B.
Okay. Well, no B. Well, okay. Well, just keep guessing letters off the top of your head.
D.
No.
N.
No, you've done these
W?
already.
I didn't write down what I've done. I'm not good at this. I'm doing bad.
Okay, there's no W. There's no W.
W?
There's no W.
Still no W.
Surprisingly.
C, D. G? No, G's not in there. That was a dumb guess. Oh no.
There's actually 3 G's. No, it's actually Gargmar.
There's 36 G's in this.
I have these 8 letters.
Oprah is bringing you the G's.
Oh god.
You get a G. H. I already said H. Shit.
Right.
What is this word? Blank
just
arm.
Keep.
A, B, C.
Wait.
I don't want this to be the game, though.
No. Okay. No. Just guess a letter that you like. Think. Just keep going through the alphabet. Where were you at?
A, B, C.
Yeah. Just keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. D.
Yeah.
E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
K is the first letter of the first word. So it's KAR something, MAR something.
T.
No. Okay. Well,
what?
Give me a second. Okay. So the person who created the banner for the page, the profile picture for my YouTube and TikTok, and also create the background image for the podcast is Andrew Sperm at ANDREWSPERM on TikTok. So go check him out. He does some great digital art, and he's also an absolute Chad gamer. All right,
Chad.
Steven.
I'm back. We're here.
Guess letters.
Y.
That's a good one, but no.
I was also just asking why.
It's a little bit of.
It's not a cart
A little bit
farm.
introspective. Nope.
Okay.
So remember, it's KAR space. It's KAR something space MAR something.
MAR something? Oh no.
M as in Mamma Mia.
So we have KAR blank and then blank. Sorry, what was the? I think I have these out of order.
It's KAR blank and then a space because it's 2 words. M, Mamma Mia, AR blank.
I wrote it down wrong. So this is
That's
why
what I was thinking.
I looked stupid.
Don't worry, we all look stupid sometimes. That's what this podcast is all about. Everybody looks stupid sometimes.
Okay, so
That's not.
did I
Okay.
say E? I haven't said E yet.
I think that was your first guess.
Oh, okay, so
Either
there's
way,
not.
it's not. It's not here. KAR something. NAR something. Karmar.
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 So the topic today is going to be Karmar because I don't know letters. Okay, so
No, think. Find. Look at the. Keep going down the alphabet. You were at
okay,
K, and
K
then.
L M
Yep, L is in it. The last letter of the first word is L.
Marl MARL.
No, the first word KARL.
Oh, Carl. Oh,
Carl.
oh, we have an X.
Yep, the topic is Karl Marx. You did it. Good job.
Carolina Marx. That
Car-
girl.
uh, Caroline Marxism.
Carl
California
Carl
Marxism.
Karl Marxism is actually just it's the political philosophy of Carl Wieser.
Yeah,
He always
exactly.
hits his mark with his inhaler. So I'm glad we're talking
Um,
about Karl Marx.
yeah, no, the actual, what I actually do want to talk about is Karl Marx and more leftism, because I know from what I understand you are a leftist, correct?
I am what I would call myself a communist. Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
So for the people at home who might hear that and think you're like
the
fucking
devil.
Ted Kaczynski, right? Yeah. Just give like a brief description of what your political philosophy is.
So Karl Marx, like, he popularized the term to each according to their ability, for each according to their need, and it's basically just the idea of like organizing society in such a way that people get their needs met. Um, I think that's the most basic and easy way to understand Karl Marx. There's obviously a lot more to it, but it's about like making sure people get what they need, and the when they do their work and people work hard, they're paid for the labor that they do. And
Right. Right.
Karl
Yeah.
Marx is
So
one of the most influential writers in world history, really. I would wager.
yeah, I'd say that's fair. I'd say that's fair. He's like a household name at this point.
Yeah, especially now. There's been quite
Mm.
the resurgence of the workers' movement in the United States after years and years of it getting just crippled by
Right.
neoliberalism. Oh no.
Neoliberalism, and again, I know not everyone listening to this podcast is familiar with like lefty buzzwords. So neoliberalism is not in reference to like the new wave of they them pronouns.
Definitely.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Um,
it's an economics thing.
yeah, and so like to break down that word because I think it's a really important word for especially Americans to understand is
Definitely.
so like liberalism is in like classical liberalism is an economic model where capitalists control the means of production and they kind of like run the toe the line of what they can get away with. And neoliberalism is like neo is new. He's also the
Mm-hmm.
Matrix. So yeah, but neo
But yeah,
means
no,
new.
it's a resurgence of this concept of the government just kind of letting people who can make a lot of money and get a lot of power that way maintain power and not a lot of intervention with that.
Yeah, yeah, and
I
a lot of
think.
people when you hear like oh liberalism or
Right.
neoliberalism.
It's more often in reference to social liberalism rather than economic liberalism. But in this case, we're talking strictly economic
Yeah,
liberalism.
yeah, and like the probably the biggest example of a neoliberal politician is Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher. which
Fu-
is like
Ding
Republicans
dong,
would
the
say
wicked
he's the
bitch
big.
is dead.
Oh yeah, and Ronald Reagan, he's also
Yeah,
burning in hell.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, no, those are like the best examples of this like resurgence. I mean, like if you've ever heard of the term trickle down economics, that is like textbook neoliberalism.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But we're talking about
that
Karl
is
Marx. What does that
yeah.
have to do with
So
anything?
and
Um,
so, my point is, I guess the goal is to kind of talk about how like so because right now there was you mentioned it that this resurgence of this like leftist communist socialist stuff. I mean, you have people like Bernie Sanders a while ago um, openly calling himself a socialist while running for president of the United States, which is unheard of in the
it's not
past.
though. That's the thing that a lot of Americans don't recognize is it's not new in America, and
Yeah, it's not new.
mm,
It's just that for a good amount of time after the Cold War,
yeah,
during the Cold
even
War.
even before the Cold War, World War I, a lot of this would be like 1920 onwards is kind of like really where the left and workers' rights were kind of weakened or and strengthened.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like put down. Yeah, I think that's like what we're noticing now is that influence of this period where so much of like the economy was focused on the government convincing people to forget workers' rights
Yeah,
and to
yeah,
stop worrying about it. It's like, please just make our machines and build our things and work your ass off and please stop complaining.
yeah,
Um, and like instilling false hope into people. That was that's something that's like right now in current year
mhm.
is starting to it's really starting to fade. That whole facade of you don't need to actively work for your rights. Um, and uh, so like Bernie Sanders is a great example, but also like I know many people who I mean I don't want to list them off. There's a bunch of people that I follow on TikTok, for example, who have like massive followings of thousands of people, and they make like commie content all the time.
Yeah,
They call themselves communists,
yeah, and
and that's impossible like 10, 20 years ago.
I think so. I think you're right. And even in some places where I live, I eh, kind of worry about calling myself a communist openly in public, um, just
Right,
because the reaction.
don't say your address out loud.
Oh yeah, yeah. My mother's social security number, though, I'll give you all that. That'll be linked in the comments below.
Yeah. I'll
So
pinned comment is all of your banking information.
yes, yes, thank you. Um,
Yeah, of
you're all
course.
welcome
It's a
to
courtesy.
please give money to me.
Yeah, don't please don't take their money. That would be cringe.
Contrary to
But
popular
it is the
belief,
communist way. It is the communist way. Communism is when you don't care about money, right?
it
Well,
is.
that is actually something I do want to talk about seriously, though, is the misconceptions around terms like neoliberalism, communism, and like what what those terms have evolved to mean. Because, like, for example, communism, you ask a professor what communism is, and they'll tell you Karl Marx's teachings, they'll tell you about, workers owning the means of production, they'll tell you about, democratic systems. But when you ask modern American, when you ask a million Americans what communism is, a lot of them are going to say authoritarianism.
1985.
This is literally 1423. This
Yeah,
is communism.
yeah, and I mean that's going to be a consequence of the Red Scare and the Cold War, and neoliberalism beating the drum that workers' rights are not something that you deserve. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Well, so
And
I guess we should go if we want to talk more about it in that way. Like we should go back to like Karl Marx's time, and I think that's
okay.
kind of the basis of Karl Marx's thinking is you have to understand the world around you and like the historical context and relevance, and also so like he says material conditions, and so that's
Material
like
girl.
material girl. Yeah, and it's just
But yeah,
understanding
no.
like what are the resources that you have available because those are the ways like the things around you are are what is shaping your mind. It's shaping who you become, and he did a lot of research. He was around like 1860, I think, is like when Capital was written. Capital was his, like the most prominent work that Karl Marx has produced, which
Das
is
Kapital was written
yeah,
1867.
yeah, and he wrote
Published
that book for
1867.
years. Like if I own the first volume, I it's very boring. It's not a fun thing to read, but it is super good to read. And if you look
I
at
think it's
like
important.
it's important if you're like if that's something that you're doing. There's a lot more works nowadays where if you are looking into leftist reading and understanding, there's better ways to get into that than just picking up Capital and reading it because it's like a 2,000 word book that with like
Right. It's
8-point
very much
font.
all encompassing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it is. It's extremely dense,
Well, and
in a
it's
good way.
yeah, and it is it's it is a description of what capitalism is in a time when nobody had an understanding of what capitalism is, like
Right,
really
right. Like
was.
the concept of capital
Yeah,
was at the very least popularized by like Karl Marx. Like today, capital is something that is like fundamental to understanding economics
yeah,
in the
definitely.
modern world.
Um,
But at the time, it's like, what the fuck is this book? What are you talking about? You
yeah,
know?
yeah, and I've like I said, I haven't finished it. It's a long ass book. I've read.
Fake and gay. Didn't
Yeah,
even read
didn't didn't
Capital.
even read Marx.
Dude,
So
read your theory, bro. Read your theory. Come back when you've read Mao, and we'll talk.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing is like I honestly I haven't read all of the stuff or even that much stuff. I like to read like articles and like zines are a good way that I find to get like a digestion of all of that stuff. And like TikTok, and there's so many people nowadays that they've done the reading, and they have probably have a pretty good
Hopefully,
understanding after reading it.
hopefully,
Yeah.
that's the faith you must have
Well,
as
yeah,
a
yeah.
solipsist.
Exactly.
But
It's
yeah, no, like being able to, with the a layer of media comprehension
yeah, exactly.
beforehand, just taking in these different interpretations. Because I feel like, I mean, the in the first episode, I was talking with my guest about partially about how the Bible is interpreted in a lot of different ways. I think Karl Marx's readings, while they aren't necessarily up for interpretation as much, they are still often misinterpreted. Like I feel like the way Marx writes and like the message is pretty damn clear, and yet even then, something as clear as what he's writing can still be so muddled. You know,
Yeah, generally,
like
and I mean it's important always, and this is part of understanding like the Marxist analysis is like he's just a human. He was just a person like me and you.
Right.
And
He's not Jesus. He's not Buddha. He's not.
yeah, and
Uh,
nobody is. Nobody's infallible. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's
Debatable.
perfect.
Yeah, except for me.
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
that is. Yeah, I'm like better than everybody.
Um,
But yeah, other people I guess might not be perfect. I get your point.
yeah, yeah. Um,
But yeah, Karl Marx. Karl Marx was just a person writing stuff. You know.
yeah, and
Um,
when he wrote stuff, he was extensive in the way that, like, if you open Capital, half the page on every single page is just footnotes to sources where he got documents. Um, and it's crazy, like, thinking about back in 1867, like, you couldn't just go to the internet to read about indigenous people of the United States. You had to, like,
right.
go to a library and go through clippings. You had
And
to.
be subject to all the biases of those clippings
Exactly.
without any Snopes or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And so, like,
and so like
the, his literacy, like, would have been incredible. Just how much reading he had to do to find these things and source them.
right, and yeah, and being able to figure out a cohesive message throughout them with all the issues of conflicting interests. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah,
having to ditch sources when you realize that they're written by people who can't be trusted and all that.
yeah, yeah. And
Um,
uh, obviously a big problem in Europe. And
right, right.
another
I mean,
large
well, I
part of
mean,
like
yeah.
he's
There's
not
a massive
invaluable.
history. Yeah, there's a massive history of like history being destroyed in Europe or by Europeans.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like it's like the like Karl Marx was, if you know, even if you don't agree with the economics, he was a fucking beast.
yeah. And
Goddamn
I think the thing with like
master.
Das Kapital is it's even like conservative thinkers and liberal thinkers like I'm spacing his name, like Milton Friedman, who was like the the like namesake of capitalism, capitalist philosophy. Like he wouldn't say Das Kapital was wrong in many ways. Like most of the stuff in that is like, yeah, this is a fair analysis of what capital is. Usually, so then where the argument falls in first Marxism versus capitalism is going to be who deserves the value of your labor. So when you go to work and do all your work, and you know you're a burger flipper, and you sell burgers for $6, but you can make or you sell 87 burgers. That's going to get you, that nets the company $1,000, but for that hour of you making 80 burgers, you only got paid $12. So that that difference of
Right.
the value of capital versus what your labor was, that's the labor value, and so it's who deserves
Right.
that profit. Is it the laborers
Right.
who made the stuff, or is it the capitalist who owns the oven?
Right, right, and that's it's a big, and I think an important thing to remember with like capitalism specifically is this principle of, because I mean obviously Marx, we mentioned it, but like Marx is like the material reality that is faced with you is critical to understanding economics. So like, for example, with stuff like the French Revolution, people are are rejecting their system and revolting, and taking up a system that meets their needs at the moment.
Yeah,
It's not about creating a perfect system that could work forever.
yeah,
And I think,
exactly.
and so
Utopia.
when people, right, utopia is stupid. doesn't make any sense. Um,
I mean, it should be
but
something
having
everybody should be fighting for. Like we should. I
it's
mean,
a good idea, but it's kind of like it's it's a given that that's something we want, but it's also a given that it's something that's not going to happen.
well,
If that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Like, and this is the thing that Karl Marx talks about and writes about, and this is throwing out another name. This is like Hegelian dialectics, and so
Dialectics. Oh
dialectics.
shit, we're getting outside of my field of expertise.
And this is like really basic understanding, but essentially there are always two forces of something. Like we have somebody who says yes and somebody who says no, and their ideas will fight with each other, and one of two things will happen. The yes will win, and the no will be thrown out, or yes and no could form together and
Create a maybe.
create a mate. I mean, yeah, something like that. But like in a grander scale, like I say five good ideas, you say five good ideas. There's some compromise in there.
Right, some of them are contradictory, but others can exist simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's yeses and nos.
Yeah, which so like the idea of a utopia would be that the dialectics of contradictions, so these like contradictory ideas, they clash out and eventually, will pull those ideas towards what a utopia would be for the people who are living there, based on the material conditions that they're living in. So, like, was indigenous people, were they living in a utopia? Is that the same utopia as what we think a utopia might be?
Right. Or what would be possible.
Yeah.
Given material resources, beliefs, and that's another thing I think is important, is that in this like dialectical approach, where it's like the ideas that aren't so good are tossed, and kind of the reason why things like actively fighting for workers' rights and stuff are so important is because a lot of people can agree and say yes, we've done the brackets, the tournament elimination. We figured out what ideas work, what ideas aren't good, and then someone can say that doesn't benefit me. I have more power than you. Shut up.
Yeah, and that is America.
Yeah.
America.
America.
Like the basis of America is really that supremacy of
Right.
like, well, I don't care about what you say.
Right. Ideas are valued based on your capital.
Exactly.
If you can't support your opinions with cash, then you don't have a valid opinion, and that's something that is like fundamentally why people like billionaires have, all this money wrapped up in stocks. For example, people are always like, why are, these billionaires, they're not really that rich. They got all their money tied up in stocks or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it's like, they've got to invest in the company. It's like every single thing that a billionaire does is to, like 99% of the actions they will take are explicitly to make more money. Because the more money you have, the more value you have as a political individual, as a political force, and as a economic force.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and
you get to make decisions essentially
yeah,
based on how much money you have.
and capital is king. So like, that's the biggest thing is, and political capital, you'll have more because you have more money. But like politics are also like just life. Anything you do in life is politics. You're wearing a
Right.
Nike shirt. You're supporting Nike in some way. That's politics, right?
Right. And so many policies are not thought about, but like I mean, like there's so many. You'll see people being like, "Oh, this shouldn't be politicized." Human rights aren't politics, and I'm like, that's like what fundamentally laws are designed to try and define.
Mhm.
Like, how do you define a human right? You make it a law. That is how it works.
Yeah,
That is inherently going to be made. That will decide policies. You know.
yeah,
So
especially with like capital runs our state, it runs everything, and so
exactly, if you can pay someone if you can pay a lobbyist to present your information louder and more frequently than your political opponents, then which is what happens. Lobbyists can be paid to. It's just a money thing. If you can pay someone to say your thing, and the more money you have, the louder they say it, then you you make a system where political power and material goods um, are all controlled by one thing. All that matters is capital.
yeah, definitely. And like, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say there.
Well, I would also say the capital matters, but also the means of capital, and so it's like a matter of who if you were to have a system that resembled more of what Marx would be interested in.
Yeah, well, and
Um,
I
yeah,
think
that.
a lot of
No, go
people
for it.
who think of Marx, and it goes back to that like utopian mindset of like, let's do it exactly as Marx wanted it, exactly as he wrote it, and it's like, well, that's not the case, which is where like
Yeah,
we seen like Lenin, and they have Marxist Leninist ideas, where
right,
Lenin read Marx, he followed a lot of what Marx said, but he said this isn't working the same way, so we have to change it a little bit to make it work, um,
right,
and that'll happen.
right. Because I mean, like part of Marxist theory is like change. You have to act according to the material conditions.
Yeah, and the science,
So,
it's science,
right,
like it really is.
exactly.
It's a social science like psychology, sociology. Most like
And,
big sociologists in like the Black Liberation movement, they probably were socialists or communist in some way. Like I think W.E.B. Du Bois, super influential black sociologist. Like he supported, he read Marx, he understood those things. Um, yeah,
right, and like so much of understanding like uh, what it means to in terms of like changing uh, the belief of a nation or the way it functions or the world, in terms of like actually getting things to happen, I guess is the best way to put what I'm trying to say.
hmm
The best way to get things to happen um, is always dependent on your material situation. So it's like, okay, according to this book from forever ago, not necessarily capital, but it's like, okay, according to this book, we should do this to overthrow our kings. And it's like, well, sometimes the circumstances are different. And so that's like one of the big things is having people who will put time in to digest these works in context. That's one of the hardest things, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, and it's crazy. I've read a bit about like Ho Chi Minh, and he was a communist, the Vietnam, um, and that dude just really interesting guy. Like he lived in Vietnam. He was poor. He was a peasant, um, and he took an opportunity to like go to Europe, learn um, learn the languages there, and read Karl Marx, like read about communism. And he came back to Vietnam, and he said, "Yeah, a lot of things that they wrote about, like we have the same situation here, a little bit different. How can we change that?" Um,
Mm.
And he had to adapt because the U.S. Empire came in and changed everything.
Exactly. Right, right. There's no footnote in Dust Capital that's like when the U.S. invades.
Yeah.
Here's how you fight off the capitalist invasion. Like no.
Well, and that's why
Uh,
he also read Lenin, and Lenin wrote about this with what is his book? Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, and he wrote about like how
nice.
eventually capitalism will get so powerful that it's not just trying to own a factory; it's trying to
It's
own
trying to own the world.
the world. Yeah, and if not to get too much into current events, but like we see that with renting. If you rent a house, previously you could just buy a house on like a small salary, raise a family in America. But now we've gotten to a point where there's like Amazon is renting out houses, and
Right, the
like,
ownership of land itself is becoming um, one of the greatest commodities. Like, I mean,
and it
uh,
always has been. That's the thing. Is like
right, right, but
landlording
like
and feudalism.
the housing market, as of recording, is not so good. To put it simply, um, there's like all sorts of crazy inflation in the housing market with a lot of people who really, really want land and really, really want to make money off it.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's one of those things where it's like, I think, like a lot of people, when they see this kind of stuff, they can get disheartened. There's this sort of, there's this idea in at least modern leftism that like a lot of people in power who have capital are actively trying to make you feel shitty and not want to change things. And I'm not sure how credible it is, but the idea of it is it's like, okay, we could solve homelessness, but people will be scared of losing their house and not having a support system if we have homeless people wandering the streets and living in tents and like almost on display. And it's like, ugh,
yeah,
it's like this sort of like, technically a conspiracy theory, but ultimately it's like even if it's not actively decided by someone, the result is despair. The result is a society where you walk around and everything looks so shitty that you don't feel motivated to try and change things. And
yeah,
so for me as someone who is, I'm young. I'm not like on my deathbed. I've barely started my career. Um, like this is for me. What's most important is making sure that people can get motivated. You know, like it's so difficult to convince someone who has been bogged down by these pressures of the world that there is ways to change. So like, the the I think there was someone I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was this TikTok, and they were talking about this concept of revolutionary optimism,
yeah,
and like being like I believe we can improve the world. That's like one of the biggest things you can do. That's without having to put in much material effort. Like utilitarian wise, you get a lot of like political advantage out of being optimistic. But I mean, you don't have to spend a shit ton of money or anything like that. There's no specific way to be optimistic that requires some crazy money investment. You
hmm
don't have to pay a lobbyist to be happy. You can just spread that sort of positivity. And so I think that's like my main my main point here with this
Yeah, it's
discussion.
it's hard. It's so hard though. Like, and I feel for you as somebody who's younger than me. It, like,
Right, for reference, Steven is 52 and I'm 6.
yeah, I'm 28. And so, I when
I thought
I
you
was
said you
growing
were
up,
30.
I
I thought you said you were 29. I thought you said you were 63.
shoot, dude, I don't even know. That's the thing. When you get older, you forget, man. You forget how old you actually are. I'm not 30. I am almost 30, and that is something I dread because that's scary.
Right.
But
Right, and I'm a fucking teenager, so I'm not even 20 years old. So it's like a 10-year difference
yeah,
for reference for the people at home.
so
Um,
like I grew up in a time where, like, for the most part, it things looked like they were okay. I mean, I was a kid when 9/11 happened, um, so like growing up and like having that optimism was still kind of difficult with like what we saw. And I think it's even harder now. And I just feel for the younger people with like climate and all that stuff. And so I find a
mm,
lot of optimism in seeing that like this isn't new so much. Like what is new is the way that we create things, and like we've come to a point where we make so much stuff that we don't even use, we don't need. We put plastic in
right.
everything, and it's just
Oh
like
my God.
those are
Okay.
things that we don't have to do. We've just been
I
sold that
know
that's the only way.
there is a perfect real world example. If anyone, okay, I don't. This might not be relevant in the future, but right now, for like the past month or so, I've been seeing ads from Fred Meyer specifically, and they advertise this uh, better standard for fresh. And it's like, the whole thing is, it's like, you know, we make sure our food is top shelf priority, so you're always getting your money's worth. But, and in the past, I would have been like, okay, cool, they have a valuable product. But now I see that and I say, so they're throwing away food. They're throwing away food that doesn't look good. And they're wasting food, and they're not following the Marxist approach to an economy in which you take what you create and you give it to people. You fucking give it to people. You don't make things and then say, well, I hope I can get good money off of this. You say, no, how can we, as a collective, produce things with our labor so that it gets to people?
Yeah.
You
Oh my
don't
gosh.
create things for profit. You create things for people. And that's something that, like, you'll see, like, that's, like, such a perfect example of that, almost like a double speak, like 1984, like, I know that's a fucking meme, but, like, that double speak where it's like, hey, we're making a good product, but if you read between the lines, what they're really saying is we're throwing away food and being extremely wasteful to maintain public image.
Yeah, yeah. And what's
And
funny,
it's
like
like, oh,
if you go to farmers markets, like all of the fruit isn't beautiful, perfect, but it's still far more fresh than what you'll get at the grocery store. Um, and
right.
it doesn't
And not
have
to
like that
mention also,
wax.
right, if you were to, if all of the food production companies in the world, not even like meat production, just like vegetable and fruits, like all the fucking massive banana farms and pineapple farms and like, and even if they're not a factory farm, if all of these massive industries of creating vegetables and fruit stopped throwing shit away and started sending that to places where people were starving, like, or using those for like aid packages, which of course it would be a massive undertaking. It would be super unprofitable, and he's extremely optimistic. Jeff Bezos isn't suddenly going to say, "Oh, I guess I'll help poor people now.
Well,
But
and
if that were to happen, like starvation wouldn't happen.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and
it wouldn't fucking
funny one
happen.
one funny thing that I was just reading the other day, just kind of related. If you're interested in like the organic food kind of like market and getting seeing how like that just giving food thing works like in everyday life and how that could happen. Uh, I just got I was just reading yesterday this article from this collective from UC Berkeley on this thing called woofing, and it's
Pardon?
WWOOF is the acronym, and it's Willing Workers on
W.
Organic Farms. And these are people who just travel to different organic farms during, like, they're just request, like, people just request people to come to this farm. They do some education on, like, this is how we plant things, this is how we harvest things. And then they go to another farm, and, while they're there, they have food because this farm grows the food. They have housing because they just kind of like live with the people on the farm for a little bit, and like it just sounds like migrant farming, but this is like it's
Yeah,
more radical because it's just like all of that is just going to the people who are farming it, and they're giving it to people, or they're selling it at
I
farmers market.
I have actually participated in something like this before.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was legal. Uh, Technically, I'm not sure if it was legal because it might have been considered child slavery. I'm not sure how Oregon's laws deal with that kind of stuff. But when I was a kid, we would have these things called expeditions where we pay some money and we pack up a bunch of stuff and we go out to some farm for a week and farm there for a week and learn about farming and then leave.
That's pretty
And it
rad.
was it was fucking awesome. It was one of the base. I mean, I still have like traumatic nightmares about it every night. Not every night. Like 30% of my dreams are nightmares about expedition.
Oh,
So it was extremely impactful in my life. But
so
I
it was
also
bad.
think that no, I think it was an extremely important experience because it taught me how to fucking work. It was, I think that's something that, you know, like, something that gets people so demotivated is seeing someone who's like, I'm a communist and I don't like billionaires. It's like, okay, so you hate labor. And it's like, no, communists love labor. If my dream is to fucking work on a farm all the time. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
You know,
but you don't
if I
like
could.
have land to do that.
Exactly. How
So
the fuck are you supposed to buy land in this fucking economy? And so it's like, um, and so it's like that's one of the most important things, I think, for people if
mhm.
you want to get motivated is find these sorts of things like WWOOF. Like get involved in this non-capital economy, and like just uh, get perform labor that is fulfilling and engaging and is productive but isn't actively like harmful. You know,
Yeah,
that's I
yeah.
think that's the best advice I can give is like find these programs, look for them,
And
and
they're
then
easy to
engage with them.
find usually. It's
Exactly. I
if
mean,
you just look up
anyone who
mutual
fucking
aid.
owns a farm,
Yeah.
right? You ask some fucking local farmer dude if he needs a farmhand. Like, it's that simple. But
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and but I do
and
want to
just
caution
that.
because like part of the problem is that like we don't. So like you were saying when you went to that expedition, like was it child labor? And it's like, well, was it
Right.
educationally based? Like, was it like taking into
Right.
account that you're a child? And like same thing with these
And
like radical farm initiatives. Like you don't want to go to the Dole farm, where they make pineapples
Exactly.
but from Dole, and be like, "Hey, Dole, I'm here to just give my free labor to you. I'm excited to be here." It's like,
Right.
no, you
You
want
have
to
to
be
be.
with people who share like ideas, and they're doing
Yeah.
this because they're doing this because they're good people.
Right. Do your research.
Yeah, read
That's
theory.
the moral. Read theory, do your research, and find something you can do with your life that is part of the economy, but um, you know, is fulfilling and doesn't kill you emotionally or physically. So that is all the time we have. Thank you so much, Stephen, for being today's guest. I hope you all learned a thing or two about Marxism. If you didn't, fuck you. You're a bitch, and I hate you. And I'll see you all next time. Make sure to check out at Solipsism Steve on TikTok,
That's me.
and subscribe to the channel. Like if you liked, comment if you have any feedback or anything at all. Any comments, just don't be cringe. Don't be cringe. We will maybe Steven will come back. Who knows? But I, at the very least, will see you next time. So goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Claire's Based Talkathon. If you would be interested in being a guest, please email me on clairetheswitch@gmail.com. That's clairetheswitch@gmail.com.